You may think that I know too much, but no, it's never too much. Because when push comes to shove, girl, just trust I won't get sick of us. You my salty crush. I'm doing something different. Your name's been on my tongue. My cup's been looking fuller. You're picking apart my walls, and baby, let's settle up. Cause lately the world's been going crazy, and I gon' need somebody to talk. Saltine and ginger ale, that shit will never fail. I keep it tucked on my body cause I don't feel well.
So this week I have a little bit of a plan. Last week I let you guys know that I've thrown my Bookopoli TBR out of the window. I do not have time for that stress. And what I have done instead is stripped my TBR back just to the essential reads that were on it for things like buddy reads, book clubs, read-alongs, all of that jazz. But yesterday I spent a good time debating. I was talking to Steph from Shelflove, trying to work out what I was going to read this week, because the only two books that I have left to read are Blood Witch by Susan Dennard and Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. Both of those are for read-alongs. However, the live show for those, I think they are both going to be the weekend of the 9th and 10th of July. So at this point we have just under 3 weeks until those live shows, and I don't really want to read those books yet because by the time it comes to the live show my memory will be a lot hazier. So I've decided we're gonna have a little bit of a theme this week, and I am going to be attempting to finish some duologies. When I decided I didn't know what to read, I was just kind of like, okay, what can we read that we want to read that is going to actually affect things in terms of like making progress on something. And next month I'm going to be making a lot of mid-year content, and one of those mid-year content videos I make is a series check-in. So I thought I'd give myself the satisfaction of finishing out as many series as possible this week, and we're going to be going with the duologies. I'm actually not a fan of duologies. Generally I prefer a longer series, so I was surprised at how many I actually have, but we actually have quite a few options for this vlog. So there is one in particular that I really want to read that I have started, but the rest of them I don't really mind which one I read this week. So I think when I get to the point where I'm coming towards the end of my current read, I'm going to post a poll either on Instagram or Patreon and get some of you guys to pick the books that I'm going to be reading in this vlog. With everything that is still going on, Hamilton is still at the vets. I also am doing a product launch for AV Schwab candle range this week. I have a nail appointment, I have a hair appointment, and I don't think, I know last week I was getting really excited thinking that Hamilton was coming home this week. When I spoke to the vet yesterday, he said he doesn't think it will be this week, but if everything goes amazingly with his current healing, it is possible that he could be coming home this week. So if that is the case, then that is an hour and 20-minute journey each way to pick him up. So that will kind of take another day away from me on a week where I actually have a standard, if not slightly elevated work schedule because of this product launch. So I'm aiming to get through at least 2 books in this vlog. That shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully we can push it up to 3 or 4, but depending on what happens throughout the week, I'm living in the moment because I don't know what the updates from the vet's going to be. I don't know if anything's gonna throw me a curveball, and I really hate it because I hate decision making. I hate having to react to things in the moment. I hate last minute plans. I'm very much a routine person. If you want to make plans with me, you have to do it at least 2 or 3 days in advance, because if you call me right now and say, do you want to go out tonight, the answer is absolutely fucking not, because I'm not mentally prepared to deal with that. So things are a little bit up in the air still in regards to what's going on with Hamilton at the minute. He had a little bit of surgery yesterday, which was planned. It's not like a setback surgery like we have been having. He's had some planned surgery to seal up the open wound that they were managing. So they have put stitches up the side parts. The open wound goes from the top of one of his legs around his bottom to the top of his other leg. So they've sealed up those side bits, and after speaking to the vet yesterday, it's a little bit much for me to get my head wrapped around, because up until now we've been struggling to get him to this point, and now that he's at this point I have very little idea of what the plan is going forward. But they said that they will either sew up the top bit if they can, because it's like right in between his bumhole and his tail, next week, or there is a possibility, and this one makes me a little bit squeamish, that they could send him home with an open wound to see how it heals. It may not heal, but it may need that healing time. So there's the option that they may send him home for 1 week to 2 weeks. I will keep in close contact with the vet, sending them photos and updates, and if they feel like it does need to be surgically closed, then I will then take him back for that to be done. But there is also the chance that it could heal on its own. It may scar a little bit, which may affect his tail mobility, but he said like having a tail that you can't really move is better than not having a tail at all. So we're very much playing it by ear and seeing how it goes. In terms of this vlog, I will keep you updated on the Hamilton updates, but if there is no change, if it's just we're going through this continuous healing process and every day I get a call like, yeah, the healing's looking good, then I probably won't really mention it, but I will make sure if there's no dramatic updates throughout this week to give you an update at the end of the week when we close out this vlog, so you know where he is at with that. So if I don't say anything, then everything is absolutely fine. And as with last week, if you are seeing this vlog, if this vlog is going up, then the updates have all been good. On to my currently reading, there was one book that stood out to me that I wanted to read that I've kind of based this video around, and the funny thing is that it's kind of not a duology, but that one is the Traitor Queen by Danielle L. Jensen. This one is the sequel to the Bridge Kingdom. Now I thought this was the second book in a longer series, but I watched Aaron from Booked and Busy's recent fantasy romance vlog where she did say it was a duology, so I looked into it and it is kind of a duology and it kind of isn't at the same time. So it seems that it's going to be a 6-book series, but it is going to be a series of 3 duologies. So this is the second book in the first duology, and then the next 2 books are going to follow 2 different characters, and there will be an overarching plot between like that goes over them all, with the 5th and 6th book following yet another different set of characters. I read The Bridge Kingdom, I think it was around this time last year, although I never really spoke about it on my channel because I was in the process of making a themed reading vlog that never saw the light of day because it was taking me so long to try and make it outside of weekly vlogs. I have since changed my tactics, as you can tell, and I'm doing more themed vlogs within the space of a week. But The Bridge Kingdom follows a young woman called Lara who has been raised in the desert with her sisters, and she and her sisters are all princesses. Their father has kept them in the desert being trained to be assassins because there is a treaty with a kingdom called Ithacana, also known as the Bridge Kingdom, that says that one of the daughters that are being kept in the desert is going to become that king's wife. So the bridge is a bridge that functions as a trade route for most of the trade in this world, and the Bridge Kingdom controls the bridge. The king, with all the daughters in the desert, wants to control the bridge, and so he is sending in one of his daughters as a bride to assassinate the king. However, when the main character marries the king and ends up in his kingdom, she starts to wonder whether everything she's been told about the Bridge Kingdom and its king are actually true. So I gave the first book 4 stars. I will say that this is a fantasy romance, but it is also very heavy on the politics. So we have a great amount of romance in here as an enemies to lovers story, but we also have some really heavy political fantasy themes. I gave the first book 4 stars. It was a little bit predictable, but I didn't overly mind that. I really liked the point that it ended on. I think these books are quite short. This one's 325 pages or 330 pages, and it's slightly shorter than the first one, but I really remember the first one being quite slow paced. It's a slow burn romance, and even though these books are short, there is a lot packed into them, which, you know me, I'm a fan of a big book, but these have plenty of content, plenty of plot, decent pacing. Surprisingly, I would say that the pacing is on the side of slow as opposed to too fast, and it's all packed into these reasonably small books. I was really excited to pick this one up based on where the first one ended, and I'm currently 90 pages into it. I am enjoying it a lot so far. The chapters are also really short as well. The reason that I stopped reading it last night is because the next chapter is 17 pages, but up until now we've had like, that is a like 1-page chapter. Some of the chapters are really short. The one before it is 3 pages. So even though it has this like real high fantasy tone, it's not overly dense, but it is like real heavy on those politics. And even though the pacing is slow, the chapters are short, and that is keeping my pace up a little bit. I'm running with a minimum of 100 pages a day. Did only read 90 yesterday, but I'll pick up that slack today, and I'm aiming to get this one finished by Wednesday, so tomorrow.
Girl, tell me something else. Salty and gingerbread, that shit will never fail. And you may think that I know too much, but now it's never too much, Because when push comes to shove, girl, just trust I won't get sick of us. Hold up, simmer. Comfort queen, my squeezing knight who opens up this package is too tight, ho, whoa. And know you got it like that. Bring it on back, cause you got it like that, ah, yeah. And know she got it like that. Sometimes desserts her best friend last. Or your daddy gonna beat my ass. Yeah, baby, oh. One shoe, I can get enough. Spill twice, never wipe it up. Off the brakes and let these fall.
Hello, so I'm just in the middle of making some candles. I'm running Patreon sprints at 7, it's currently 4, so I want to wrap up working by around 5, 5:30, so I can get some food and then get into sprints. I'm currently on page 199 of the Traitor Queen and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm so excited to continue tonight, and fingers crossed I'm also going to be finishing tonight. So I have 2 books that I'm going to take a picture of and put on Patreon and post on my Patreon page and ask my patrons to decide what book I'm going to be reading, but I thought I'd let you guys know what the options are. So our first one is The Faithless Hawk by Margaret Owen. This one is the sequel to The Merciless Crow, which is a book that I read in I think 2019, really enjoyed and just did not finish. It's a young adult fantasy. I really enjoyed the writing style, and because it's called The Faithless Hawk, like if you've read The Merciless Crow, you'll understand why The Faithless Hawk as a title is a little bit scary for me. And the other one I have is Bone Cries Dawn by Catherine Purdy. This one is the Owlcrate edition, and this one is the sequel to Bone Cries Moon, which is a YA fantasy romance that was released in May last year. I read that one. I was really excited to read it. It was quite highly anticipated by me, but sadly I didn't love it too much. I only gave it 3 stars, but as I am a rep for Owlcrate, I was offered the sequel as part of my rep package, so I decided to take it so I could finish this out, see how the story ends, as it is only a duology. So personal preference wise, Bone Cries Moon I read more recently than I read The Merciless Crow, so this one would be good because it's kind of fresher in my memory, and then when I've read it, it's done and I can decide whether I actually enjoyed this duology or not. And The Merciless Crow I read a little bit longer ago, so it will be a little bit more difficult for me to get back into this one. May need to read a recap of the first book, but I do think I'm going to enjoy this one more, and it is also 50 pages shorter. I do have an arc of Little Thieves by Margaret Owen as well, which I would like to read, but kind of just for the sake of consistency would like to finish out this duology first. But those are going to be the options that I'm giving my patrons, and when I finished the Traitor Queen, I will let you know which one they have picked. So I need to go because I need to get back to making candles, as I'm on a little bit of a time crunch, and I'm on even more of a time crunch because when I got the call from the vet this morning, he said that he thinks it may be a good idea if Hamilton comes home. He does still have an open wound that I will have to manage. I'm going to try, like I will show him in the vlog if he's around feeling good, if he's up and about, but I'm going to try not to show any of those surgical areas in this vlog because I personally have medical anxiety. So actually managing that and cleaning that and dealing with that is going to be a challenge for me, like a real challenge. I get close to panic attacks. Like if I cut myself and I can see the inside of my body, or like any surgery stuff on television, anything particularly gory to do with the insides of bodies, I'm not like squeamish about blood or anything. It's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but something like this open wound is going to be very challenging for me to deal with. So I obviously know that that is something that may be challenging for a lot of you guys to see. So I'm going to try and keep any of that stuff to a minimum and not in this vlog, so do not worry about that. And if it does creep in at any point, I will have put like a disclaimer in the description box or at the beginning of this video. My battery cut off, but I was saying I'm really excited to get him home. A little bit nervous, but overall like really excited. I'm really excited to see him, and I'm happy that he's in a place where he's able to be brought home, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna miss like half a day to a full day of work tomorrow. And I do have a product launch, as you guys know, coming on Friday, so I'm trying to be as prepared and do as much as I possibly can. I've already got loads done in the first 2 days of this week. My video for tomorrow I would usually have filmed and edited today, but I've actually already got it edited, scheduled and everything yesterday, so all of that is done, and I have got a little bit of hair. I'm maximizing my free time as much as possible because I do have a hair appointment on Friday as well, and that's going to take up most of my day. So I'm gonna go and get back to work, but I will check in with you guys if I finish the Traitor Queen tonight, and if not, when I bring Hammy home tomorrow. So last night during sprints, it was in the final sprint, I did manage to finish the Traitor Queen by Danielle L. Jensen, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. So these books are very short. They're like 300 pages each, and you have, as we've discussed earlier, like every 2 books is its own kind of story arc with 2 characters, and then it's going to move on to 2 other characters. I really like the writing in here. I would say that if you're a fan of like Throne of Glass or ACOTAR, it has that kind of fantasy romance writing style. In terms of the amount of romance in this series, it is like driven romantically, so there is romance driving the story, but it's not overtaking the plot. Like, you have a strong political plot line in here as well, and the romance is real slow burn, which I also really enjoy about this series. I feel like this series just has potential to be 5 stars, but because they're so short, it's just not quite hitting it. You have one of my pet peeves in this series, which is that things are skipped. So between chapters, the characters will have done stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be included on page. Like, if they make a plan to go somewhere, they may go somewhere during the chapter break that you don't get to read about. But what I will say is that even though it is my pet peeve in fantasy, and it's something that I really don't enjoy and will find that it takes away from a story sometimes, in this series I don't think the story suffers for it. I think that the bits that are missed are fine, and I think it is because the story still has plenty of slow moments so that you're not losing out on that character development. Because normally when it happens in fantasy, what I find is that I'm less attached to the characters because I've spent less time with them, whereas we're still getting that in this series even with those time jumps, so it doesn't actually really bother me that much. The reason why I give this 4 stars is that I just do think it could do with being longer. The action scenes in here, it tended to like skip the recuperation periods, I want to say, between battles. You're also shifting between 2 perspectives in here, so sometimes if there is actually something going on in the story but nothing notable happens while the thing is going on, it will just happen in another character's perspective, like while that character is doing something else that's a little bit more relevant to the story. But I do think the series is very well written. I think that the world is very well built, especially considering the size of these books. The politics, if you like political fantasy, there's a whole ton of politics in here. I will say that it does, like, you do have to think about the politics sometimes when they're having like strategy meetings and talking about all of these different countries and how they relate to each other. You have to concentrate on it a little bit if you've taken a little bit of time away and you've been in more of like an action or romance based area and you come back to like all of the strategy. And I'm really interested in reading more from Danielle L. Jensen. So she has the Dark Shore series, which I think has something to do with the sea, and it's the series that I see her promoting on Instagram the most heavily. But she also has the Malediction series, which I think is about trolls. So if you guys have read any of Danielle L. Jensen's other books, please let me know where I should go from here based on my enjoyment of this, because I think Dark Shores is YA, so I'm less inclined to want to do that one next, but I'm unsure about the Malediction trilogy. And as you guys know, I like my fantasy romance, so whatever fits this tone more, like high fantasy, slow burn fantasy romance with like really good political plotline, let me know where I should go from here, because I am really interested in reading more of her work. So this was not on my Bookopoly TBR because the Bookopoly TBR does not exist this week, and this one for Whateverthon got me, I think, 175 points. So it did match my team genre. I'm still before my goal, so I got 100 points, matched my team genre, and I used this for 2 prompts, and I can't remember what the first one was, but the second one was a self-published or indie book. And this one as well was also a gift from Brittany, so thank you so much to Brittany for sending this one my way. I enjoyed it a lot. So the results of the poll, there's something going on with the Patreon app and it's not showing me the percentages of my poll on the app. It is on my computer. I was actually really surprised at the results of this one, because I will just show you the percentages, because as you can see I don't have an actual percentage. But the Faithless Hawk won, and I really thought that it was going to be Bonecryer's Dawn, with that being a more recent release, because the Merciful, I keep calling it the Merciless, it's a Merciful Crow, is a series that I never hear anyone talk about, but the Faithless Hawk won. So I have started this. I've only read 1 chapter. I'm 15 pages into it, but now that I'm actually reading this, I can tell you a little bit about this series. So it is a YA fantasy set in a high fantasy world, and we are following a young woman called Fi, who is a crow, and this world is split into a series of castes, and all the castes are named after birds. So your top top cast is the Phoenix cast, and they are the royalty, and then right at the bottom we have the crows. So each cast has like a magical ability called a birthright associated with it. Like, I think the Phoenixes have the power to control fire. I think the peacocks are illusion magic. I'm settling back into this world. I don't know the specifics yet. Although, does it have the caste system in the beginning like it does in the first book? It doesn't. But the crows in this world are treated terribly, and they are also responsible for removing the dead bodies or dealing mercy. So everybody hates the crows, even though they perform this essential service in the world of removing the bodies of people with the plague to stop contamination spreading. The reason that they do this is that the crows are actually immune to the sinner's plague, and they also don't have a birthright, but they can access the birthright of the other castes if they can touch the bones of the caste. So they take payment for their work in the form of teeth, and they use these teeth to harness the abilities of the other caste. So this story starts off where Fi and her band of crows have been summoned to the palace to remove the body of the crown prince and his bodyguard, who have both died of the plague. However, when they get a little way out of town with these bodies, they find out that the prince and his bodyguard are actually not dead, and that the leader of Fi's band has agreed to help them escape the confines of the palace, where the prince's stepmother is trying to have him assassinated so that she can take over the realm. So himself and his bodyguard hatch this plan to fake their own deaths to get out of the city so that they can travel to cities where they have allies and relatives that will rise up against the evil stepmother figure in this series. So I really liked the main character in the first book. I also really liked the writing of this series. It is a little bit more like descriptive and complicated. Like, it has a distinct style which is kind of fitting to the world and the nature of the characters. Like, I found that it worked really well, the writing style in here. There were quite a few things that happened in the first book that I wasn't expecting, and this book being called The Faithless Hawk really has me worried about one character in particular. So this is 375 pages, so I'm going to aim to have this done by the end of the week, maybe a little bit quicker so I can squeeze another book into this week, but we'll see how I go. It is currently almost 11 AM and I am going to be leaving to go and pick Hamilton up at 12:15-ish. I'm a little bit nervous about this because he is still not peeing properly. However, the vet has said that he's not even trying to pee, so they're not concerned that he's blocked or anything like that, because if so, he would be at least attempting to pee. And the only other thing that it could be is a neural issue, but they don't think that that is the case because there's no other signs of it being neural, and normally there would be something like dribbling if there was a neural issue there. So the vet is pretty much convinced at the minute that he's just being stubborn and he's not going because he doesn't fancy going. So the reason that he's being brought home is because the vets have essentially said like they're not doing anything for him right now that cannot be done at home. The only complication we kind of have is this peeing thing. So I'm going to bring him home, and fingers crossed being in his normal environment will encourage him to pee. Because of his surgery and him still needing to rest, he does have to be confined to either a cage or a small room. So in the interest of trying to get him to pee, just so that we know that he can do it, I'm going to confine him to the kitchen and the living room for today and the rest of the night, with steps up to the couch, so his food, his litter tray will be in the same place that it normally is, and he will also be able to lie on the couch. And we also have a beanbag chair, so he has a little bit of comfort as well, and also a little bit of normalcy to kind of encourage him to return to his normal behavior-ish. And then tomorrow my dad is dropping off a dog crate so that he can have that restriction and there's no risk of him jumping or anything, and we're kind of like, we're sure that he's gonna be okay in that regard. He is coming home with an open wound. They didn't send me a picture, so I haven't seen it, so I'm still a little bit nervous about that. But I'm pretty sure all I need to really do with him is make sure that he has all of his medications on time, clean out his wound. If it gets dirty, I don't think I have to do anything unless it is getting dirty or has like a little bit of fluff or grit in it or anything. And also make sure that he's peeing. So before I do that, I have the product launch tomorrow. So I'm going to edit all of the photos on my computer now and upload them to my website, so that tonight when Hamilton is home, all of the work that I've left left myself for today is all computer work, and I can do it on the sofa on my laptop, and then also write up my notes and interview questions for my interview with HR More tomorrow night. So I don't actually have too much on, but it's a little bit all over the place, and I need to be like reactive with Hamilton and like see how he's feeling and be able to react to that. And I like routine. Being reactive is not like my favorite thing. That's my plan, and I'm gonna go and get on with some stuff before I have to go out. Hello, baby boy. He's Mama's little ascot. Yes, you are. That's Mama's goodest boy, eh? It's been a very good boy. Good afternoon. I've had a hell of like a 24 hours. We picked Hamilton up from the vets. His wound's a bit scary looking. I'm gonna not show it as much as I possibly can because it is pretty grim. I'm just gonna go see what he's doing because he's being suspiciously quiet. Oh, he's just stood. He's got a soft cone on that Ash kindly sent to me. Thank you so much, Ash. And I think it's made him do a startle, but essentially he was okay to come home providing his wound held up, was fine, looked good, which it does. 24 hours on, it's looking fine, apart from looking generally disgusting. But he wasn't peeing in hospital. They said it may be a behavioural thing, so he may feel better at home. Take him home. If he hasn't peed by today, then call a vet. So he hadn't peed, so I rang them. They told me to ring my general vet. Rang my general vet, got an appointment really, really quickly, thankfully. And the vet spoke to the specialist. Everyone's concluded that he should be able to pee. He's just not peeing. So that's either behavioural, being stubborn, in too much pain or discomfort. He also doesn't like his cone. It subdues him a lot. Like he's a lot more lively without it, but he keeps licking his ass, so it needs to be on. So when I took him to the vet, she decided to give him a pain injection. They decided that better pain management would probably improve him. She also told me to take his cone off and supervise him, at least until my soft cone arrives, to see if he preferred that more. So I was real worried because I was like, fuck, we're gonna have to take him back to the specialist tomorrow. Might have a problem with his bladder, which is a whole separate problem to what he's got, so it's gonna cost me a whole ton more money. But we got him home and he's peed. As soon as we got back, I let him out. He stood in his litter tray and then got straight out, so I took his cone off and he peed. He peed. We are all good. So since then he's been continuously licking his ass. I was gonna leave his cone off for a while, but it's just not gonna work because he keeps going for it. And with his cone off, he's much more lively and energetic, so he's also running away from me. So I put the soft cone on, and he's not come out of the kitchen yet, so I'm not sure how happy he is about that. I'll go check on him, actually. Oh God, this is my day. This was my night last night. I had actual panic attacks last night because he was just very sleepy and lethargic. You took it off. He's took it off. I cannot with this boy. I cannot cope with this boy. But he peed. So now all I have to do is get this soft cone to stay on his neck. And fingers crossed we are all good until he goes for his checkup Monday, Tuesday, and then we'll see what they say about surgery. I have just finished filming Bookopoly and I need to get that edited today, but Hamilton is currently sleeping and Curtis is watching him, so I'm actually going to take this opportunity to film another video for next week while I have some time where everything in there is managed and everything is fine. Yesterday was a whole nightmare. He went to the vets for a pain injection. That made him like super active because he couldn't feel any pain at all anymore. And he spent most of the day kicking his cone off. I think up until around 9 p.m. he hadn't kept a cone on. He has a soft one and a hard one now, and I was alternating between the two to see if I could get one to stay on better, but he figured out how to get them both off, and there's nothing like I couldn't possibly tie them any tighter, so he spent all of yesterday kicking them off and he wouldn't keep one on for more than an hour. So I spent a good 11 hours chasing him around. I did not accomplish anything yesterday aside from going to the vets, and between 4:45 and 5 o'clock I managed to read about 50 pages of the Faithless Hawk. I'm currently on page 105 of that now, and I can say with a lot of certainty that I am not going to be reading anything else this week. That will be my final book of the week, and I've got 280 pages left, so it's going to be a little bit of a push to get it done. But I am enjoying the book a lot. It carries on straight from the end of The Merciful Crow, which, as I mentioned, I read quite a long time ago. The lovely Megan, who is one of my patrons, did send me a list of bullet points because she'd actually just finished The Merciful Crow, so I could refresh myself on all of the plot points before going into this one. But straight off, I really enjoy the writing style. I still really love the writing style. I really like the main character. She's very surly, which comes from a life of mistreatment and everybody hating the crows, so she's quite rude to people who are rude to her. Like, she doesn't do what some of the crows do, which is kind of back down to avoid a fight. She's very much like, I do not deserve to be treated like this. And also where I'm up to, we've just had the return of one of my favorite characters from the last book. I will say that if you are thinking of going into the Faithless Hawk and it's been a while since you've read The Merciful Crow, I would probably recommend that you actually give that a reread, because I haven't, and while I'm still following the story and I'm not really confused about anything, I feel like I would be enjoying it slightly more if I had had a refresh on that last book, with it just running straight from the end of the first one. But I also think that Margaret Owen does quite a good job of refreshing and recapping throughout the beginning section of the book as well. I also as well really love the world building in this series, and I think it has a really great atmosphere. So my plan for the rest of the day is to film this other video that I'm making. I don't think it's going to be a super long one, and then I'm probably going to read for the rest of the day. I haven't worked out since Tuesday, so I do kind of want to get on my workout schedule. It's just hard because I don't want to disturb Hamilton too much, because with being in that room, which is the room that he's currently confined to, and also it's not ideal if I'm exercising and I have to keep getting off my bike every few minutes to see what he's doing because he's out of sight, or he's ripping his cone off, or just being a little nightmare or something like that. So I may possibly squeeze in a workout today, but aside from that, I'm pretty much confined to the sofa to keep an eye on my baby boy. So I will be watching TV, playing games, reading, like that kind of stuff. But you will have seen Bookopoly by now, and one of the prompts that came up was most recent purchase, and I had Realmbreaker in for it because this is the last book that arrived on my doorstep prior to me filming the video, and I was really excited because, as I mentioned loads of times, I love Red Queen, really want to read this book. But then I remembered, like 30 minutes before I started filming, I got a big old box of very exciting books, and that is the Fairy Loot Red Rising set. So I was not interested in these books when Fairy Loot originally put them for sale. I will buy special editions, but usually only for series that I've read, for one, and two, ones that I really enjoy. Like, I ordered the Blood and Ash set, which will turn up whenever, because up until reading the third book, I really enjoyed the Blood and Ash series. But when people started receiving these and I noticed the scythe on the spines, I am hoping I'm gonna really enjoy this series as well, because I know like Pierre Ford loves it, Cody loves it, G loves the first book but didn't love the second book as much, and I can't remember if she read the third one. So I have high hopes for it, and we're gonna find out real soon because Red Rising has made it onto my July TBR. So what I know about the series is that it is futuristic and it's set in space, or like on planets that aren't Earth. The world has a caste system. I think the highest are the golds and the lowest are the reds, and our main character Darrow is a red, and the reds have been led to believe that they have an actual purpose. I think they're mining for some sort of resource, and they believe that that is essential and that they're helping people out and that people really need this resource. However, I don't think that people actually do. I think they are essentially being used as slave labor, and I think that this is an uprising story. So we'll see how it goes. With the amount of sci-fi on my TBR, I think I am going to be doing a exclusively sci-fi vlog, which will coincide with the little project that Steph is doing this month, which is Sci-Fi July. So it's not like a readathon, but there is a bingo board, as Steph just generally wanted to read a lot of sci-fi in July and decided to make it like a thing. So I will probably do like a week-long Sci-Fi July kind of situation with just how much sci-fi has ended up on my TBR. That being said, I'm gonna go and collect the books that I need to film this video, and then check in on how the boys are doing before I start editing Bookopoly. Good evening, or should I say good morning, because it's like just past 1 a.m. I'm gonna take these off. These are not my normal glasses, but I have absolutely no idea where I put my usual glasses when I took them off last night, and these were the first ones that I could find. So we've been rolling with them. The reason why I don't wear these and have never worn these is because they're really heavy and they leave really big indents in my face and also give me headaches. But I don't actually have been reading for most of the day, and I don't really wear my glasses to read. So we've been okay, but I'm currently on page 340 of this. So I have about 45 pages left. And honestly, I was about to put it down and go to bed because I'm so fucking tired. But I decided I was going to continue because the chapter where I thought like, okay, get to the end of this chapter and then just go to bed and read the last like 60 pages or something tomorrow, even though tomorrow's Monday, they got really good. Like the chapter ended on a bit and I was like, oh shit, no, I cannot stop here. So I just took a 5-minute break because I am so tired. Also, my nails match the trim on my sports bra. I love that for me. Speaking of sports bras, I have not worked out since Tuesday. I went upstairs to put this on so that I could work out before the end of the Buffy watch along at like 8:30 p.m. Just got completely distracted and then came downstairs, watched Buffy. Hamilton had poop time, which took 45 minutes because he does this thing where he walks around in shirts for a while, dicks about with his litter tray. He wanted to go out because he normally poops outside. Obviously not allowed out. Will probably never be allowed out again, and if he is allowed out, it will be with extreme supervision. And that took most of my evening after that up until about midnight, and now I'm just trying to finish my book. So I'm gonna go do that, but I will probably update you guys and wrap up this vlog completely in the morning because I'm tired. I'm tired and I want my bed, and I don't know, like obviously mental health stuff manifests in different ways for different people. Anxiety with me is really weird because like anxiety can sometimes keep me awake, but that's mainly if it's something I'm thinking about. If it's something that I'm dealing with, like Thursday and Friday were very bad anxiety days in terms of Hamilton and what's going on with him, just because this is not an experience I've been in before. I feel like treating an animal, dealing with an animal with an open wound is not super common, especially not in the location where he has. Even the specialist has said like, this is an unusual injury that we're dealing with here, so we don't have concrete results on how this is going to work out and how long it's going to take kind of situation. But like the open wound, but also just stitches. I've never had stitches. The only type of stitches I've had are like the little strip ones that they stick on, and I had them on my head when I was maybe like 4 or 5. So all of this is an entirely new experience for me. Even growing up with animals my entire life, never had to deal with an open wound and never had to deal with like serious surgery past like neutering or spaying. So they were big anxiety days, and when I have to deal with something, I just want to go to bed because it's like I want this portion, I want this to be over, and the way that I can make it be over is to go and sleep. So I've been exhausted for the majority of this week, and then I've been waking up really early because when I'm asleep is the only time that he's truly unsupervised, and he's got into a habit of ripping his cone off occasionally. So I've been going to bed because I want to sleep, being exhausted, sleeping like a baby, but then waking up really early so that I can come down and check on him. So sleep has not been my friend, but also a coping mechanism. So yeah, I'm gonna finish this book. The ending, it's turned out to be really good. There's some things when I talk about it tomorrow, I'll let you know, but there's some things that I feel like could have been done better in the way that they were executed. But in terms of the plot, really enjoying it, and I like the direction that the end is going. I did see it coming, the things that's happening, I saw a big part of it coming, but I'm not mad that it happened. Good morning guys, or good afternoon because it is now just past midday. I spent the morning packing up all of my EU orders that were placed last week because from the 1st of July there's going to be a new like EU tax scheme in place, and they're changing the way that the customs works and stuff, and essentially sellers, like online sellers, are now responsible for collecting the VAT and paying it to each government for like each country, but they've kind of simplified it, but each country has a different tax band. So might as well give you an overview of that here, because from now on I'm not going to be shipping to the EU through my website, but I am going to be reserving a portion of stock every single week from every single restock. I'm putting it on Etsy instead, primarily for my EU customers so that you guys can still get your candles, but obviously that doesn't stop people, just like general people on Etsy, from also purchasing. So the restock should happen at about the same time. I will restock the website first, but I should be doing the Etsy restock at the same time, and that is how we're going to proceed from now on. Essentially essentially it just means that Etsy will charge you guys the tax instead of me having to do it, and then Etsy will pay that to the places where it needs to go, and I don't have to deal with any of that. It is going to cost me a little bit more because Etsy fees much higher than like the setup I have with my website, and it is going to cost you guys slightly more because you have to pay the VAT, because normally I'm not VAT registered. I don't make enough money to be VAT registered, so I don't have to charge anyone VAT because I'm not VAT registered, but this is a thing for everyone. So now VAT is a thing. It's a whole process, but that's the simplest way that I can figure out how to do it. So sorry to my EU friends that has to change, but there is truly no way that I can figure out around it except for me to absorb the tax. But it can be as high as like 25%, and that is a rather large percentage. So last night I finished The Faithless Hawk by Margaret Owen. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I still stand by what I said, in that if you want to get the most enjoyment from this, I would advise reading it shortly after The Merciful Crow or rereading The Merciful Crow. But I really like this as a young adult fantasy series. There's like conveniences and predictable things in it. Like there's elements of the plot twist that I definitely saw coming and I didn't believe. I didn't find them believable, but I don't think that necessarily took away from my enjoyment. There was also one thing that did niggle at me and does niggle at me in fantasy is like, I don't mind info dumping regarding the world at the beginning. Like I don't mind if there's a couple of chapters where it's essentially like, this is what the world is like, and gives you all of the information, but I don't like it in plot twists. So like I like a villain monologue because of the badassery of a villain monologue, but I don't like things done in dream sequences or just like really convenient ways of getting information. And there was a part in this where it was just like a chapter of, here is all the information you need to why this thing happened. That does really bug me. I think it is a reasonably unique world for young adult fantasy, and also I find that it is quite well developed as a high fantasy world in comparison to a lot of young adult fantasy I've read, but without being really dense and really long. And I do think that Margaret Owen did a really good job of striking that balance. I also like the writing style and the characters in here. It has a little bit of like, it's a distinguishable writing style. Like I could pick out the writing style from this book specifically. I haven't read anything else from Margaret Owen yet because she hasn't published anything else, so I can't say whether that's going to be transferable throughout books. But I do have an arc of her 2021 release, Little Thieves, which is out in September or October, so I'm going to be reading that probably next month, and then I will be able to give you an answer on that. But overall, would definitely recommend this series. It also reminded me, actually, especially in this book, I don't know if I got the same vibes from the first book, but this book definitely reminded me a lot of Red Queen and some of the elements. There's like an element of a spy network which reminded me of like Farley in the Red Queen series, and also like some undercover palace stuff, which is one of my favorite tropes, you know, like where somebody goes hides out in the palace, or somebody's in the palace and shouldn't be and has to adjust to court life, that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed those elements of this as well. So I'm sad this week really that I didn't get to read more than 2, because I didn't realize I started so many duologies, but there are quite a few other sequels that I could have picked up before this video to have finished duologies. So I would have liked to have squeezed one more in, but obviously Hammy Bum's back and it was a little bit stressful the first couple of days managing that. He's a lot better now. He's adjusted to his cone and to everything that's kind of going on with him and his limitations that he doesn't understand he has, but I set out for him so that he heals faster. So that is a little bit more manageable, and I've been doing like, I need to edit this vlog, that's what I'm going to do in a minute. So after every like clip, I'll just go check in on him, make sure he's okay, and we've struck a nice balance where we can all be a little bit more chill. So that is it for this week's vlog, guys. Next week I'm going to be reading my read along books to make sure that I get those done. So we have Blood Witch for Witchlands Long, and I'm going to be starting at least Golden Fool for Elderling Long, because the live shows for those are going to be in the 2nd week of July. So if you want my thoughts on any of those books, then please do tune in next week. But I do hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog if you made it this far. If you have, don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.